During dinner, my cousin mentioned, "I'm excited for the New Year trip." My parents suddenly went silent. They had arranged a family holiday. Without inviting my kids, I stayed, quiet. Instead, I took my own family to Dubai and shared the firework. Videos, the angry call from my dad the next morning, revealed their secret to everyone. My cousin's voice cut through the dinner table like a blade. "I'm excited for the New Year trip." The words hung in the air, heavy and wrong. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. I didn't look up immediately. I didn't need to. The sudden silence from my parents told me everything before anyone said another word. My mother's smile had stiffened. My father stared down at his plate, chewing slowly, like he hadn't heard anything at all. But he had. Everyone had. I glanced at my kids beside me. My daughter was tracing circles on the tablecloth, bored, unaware. My son leaned against my shoulder, trusting, safe. They didn't know they weren't included, not yet. My chest tightened, but my face stayed calm. "Aren't you excited too?" my cousin asked, confused by my silence. I met my father's eyes then. Just for a second, he looked away. That was my answer. They had planned a family holiday, booked flights, reserved rooms, packed excitement, and erased my children from it. No explanation, no discussion, no warning, just quiet exclusion delivered between bites of dinner. The betrayal wasn't loud. It never is. I've always been the responsible one in the family, the one who doesn't argue, the one who understands, the one who adjusts. After my divorce 5 years ago, I moved back closer to my parents so my kids could grow up around grandparents. Cousins, noise, and warmth. I rebuilt everything from scratch. New job, smaller house, tighter budget. I never asked for help. I just showed up. Birthdays, weddings, hospital visits. I was always there. But slowly I noticed something. Plans were discussed without me. Decisions were made and then casually announced. "We thought you'd be busy. We didn't want to trouble you." It's complicated. Complicated usually meant inconvenient, especially when it involved my kids. They were treated like an afterthought. Invited when it was easy, forgotten when it wasn't. I told myself not to overreact. Families aren't perfect. Maybe I was being sensitive. Still, I watched. I watched my parents praise my siblings' children while barely noticing mine. I watched my kids try harder, smile bigger, speak louder, behave better, just to be seen. And I stayed calm. Because reacting emotionally would only confirm what they already believed about me, that I would accept whatever they gave. After that dinner, nobody mentioned the trip again. Not to me, but I saw the signs. One afternoon, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off some documents. Suitcases stood near the hallway wall, new, hard shell, expensive, tags still attached. My mother quickly stepped in front of them when she saw me, her smile too quick, too careful. "We're just reorganizing," she said. I nodded, as if I believed her. Another evening, my son ran into the living room holding his tablet. "Grandma, Cousin Ali said you're all going on a plane together." My mother's hand paused mid-air while folding laundry. Just for a second. "Oh, yes," she said lightly. "Maybe next time, Beta. Maybe next time." The same words they had used his whole life. At family gatherings, conversations lowered when I approached. My father would clear his throat and change the subject. My siblings avoided eye contact, like silence could erase reality. Nobody wanted confrontation. They wanted comfort. And comfort required my quiet acceptance. One night, I overheard my father on the phone. His voice was calm, casual. "We didn't tell him yet," he said. "It's easier this way." Easier. I stood in the hallway, unseen, and finally understood. They weren't forgetting my kids. They were choosing not to include them. The final moment came quietly. It was 3 nights before, New Year's Eve. My daughter walked into my room holding a small notebook, her face serious in a way children shouldn't have to be. "Papa," she asked softly, "did we do something wrong?" The question hit harder than anything else had. I sat up. "Why would you think that?" She hesitated, then looked down at the page. It was a drawing of airplanes and fireworks, stick figures holding hands. "Cousin Ali said everyone is going on a special trip," she whispered. "But he said we're staying here." She didn't cry. She didn't complain. She just wanted to understand. That hurt more than anger ever could. I realized then it wasn't about me anymore. It was about what my silence was teaching them. That exclusion was normal. That they should accept being less important. I had spent years protecting peace. But peace without respect is just quiet disrespect. That night, after they fell asleep, I opened my laptop. The screen glowed in the dark room, reflecting in the window like a second version of me. For the first time, I didn't hesitate. I didn't ask permission. I didn't inform anyone. I simply chose my children. I didn't act out of impulse. I never do. Revenge is effective only when patience and precision lead the way. I started by researching flights, accommodations, and experiences that mirrored what my parents had planned. Luxury hotels, private fireworks viewings, fine dining. I used travel forums, reviews, and virtual tours to ensure everything would impress, but also be smooth, stress-free. My kids deserved a holiday that felt effortless, not a hastily patched replacement. I checked my calendar, made work arrangements, and confirmed school schedules, every detail accounted for. Timing mattered. I wanted the trip to overlap perfectly with my parents' New Year plans, so the contrast would speak louder than any words. I also prepared the visual evidence. High-resolution photos, short videos of fireworks, the family laughing together, captured naturally, as if someone had followed us secretly. I didn't plan confrontation. I planned revelation. Legally and logistically, nothing could be questioned. Reservations were under my name, tickets confirmed, itineraries documented. There would be no loopholes, no excuses. Finally, I rehearsed my own restraint. The most powerful revenge isn't loud, it's deliberate, measured and undeniable. When the moment came, I would not need to speak. The story would tell itself. The morning we left for Dubai, my kids were buzzing with excitement, unaware of the quiet satisfaction building inside me. Their laughter filled the car as we drove to the airport, and I let it wash over me. Once we arrived, every detail unfolded perfectly. Check-in smooth. Rooms spacious, windows framing the city's skyline. Fireworks practiced and rehearsed by nature itself. The Burj Khalifa's display synced with our first evening toast. My children's eyes sparkled in reflection, their joy uncontainable. I filmed snippets, subtle angles, candid moments, proof that this was real, memorable, ours. I didn't post immediately. I waited until late night, when I knew my parents would be scrolling, idle, imagining their own plans. Then I shared short videos, stories of laughter, explosions of color over skyscrapers, moments where my children's faces glowed with wonder. By morning, the messages began. Silent shock, disbelief. My father's voice, tight and controlled, came over the phone, sharp despite its calm. How? How did you? I let it hang. No excuses, no arguments, no explanations, just the undeniable truth. My children had not been forgotten. And for once, the exclusion they tried to impose on us was reflected back. Quietly, perfectly, and irrevocably. By the time we returned, the fallout had already begun. My parents avoided phone calls at first. Then the calls came, hesitant, clipped, full of carefully measured words. My father's usual authority wavered, replaced with the brittle edge of frustration he tried to hide. My siblings' congratulations were awkward, their eyes flicking to my kids as if measuring some invisible score. Neighbors and cousins began murmuring about the holiday. I saw Hamza's family in Dubai, one said casually, but the undertone was unmistakable. Recognition, envy, quiet admiration. My kids were smiling, glowing, and completely unaware that their joy had shifted dynamics in ways no one had expected. The stakes weren't just pride. This was about respect, about the subtle message families send when they decide who belongs and who doesn't. My parents careful. Exclusion had assumed compliance. It had assumed that silence meant acceptance. But it didn't. I watched them wrestle with embarrassment and guilt. I watched my children hold their heads high, treated as equal, celebrated, and loved. Audiences should care because this isn't just a story of revenge. It's about standing up for those who are overlooked, about proving that quiet strength and careful action can reclaim dignity. Sometimes the most powerful lesson isn't shouted, it's lived. Sitting on the balcony the night after we returned, I watched my children chase the last streaks of sunlight across the garden. Their laughter, unburdened and genuine, felt like a quiet triumph I hadn't realized I was holding my breath for. I reflected on the months leading up to this moment. The small betrayals, the careful planning, the restraint I forced on myself. Each moment of patience had been worth it. I hadn't acted out of spite. I had acted to teach a lesson in respect, inclusion, and value. In doing so, I had reclaimed not just my children's joy, but my own sense of agency. Conversations with my parents gradually returned to normal, though tinged with a new awareness. There was no need for confrontation or long lectures. The truth had spoken louder than words ever could. I sensed a shift in the family dynamic, a quiet acknowledgement that my children and I were no longer invisible. Looking forward, I know the future holds its own challenges, but I've learned the power of calm persistence and deliberate action. Sometimes victory isn't dramatic. It's the simple act of showing up fully, unapologetically, for those who matter most. And in that clarity, I finally understood silence, when chosen wisely, can roar louder than any words.